time high. Specialty coffee is all about flavor, but in my opinion, flavor notes are not good enough at communicating flavor experiences. We use simple words to describe the complex interplay of taste and aroma that is flavor. The trouble is, coffees don't always taste like the flavor notes we use. They're comparisons, and this can lead to a lot of confusion between coffee professionals and new specialty customers. The risk is that people who are new to specialty coffee will feel alienated because they can't find the flavor notes or because they don't know what to look for. I've experienced this many times with my customers, and it's made me passionate about easing people into specialty coffee. I think in order to have honest conversations about coffee and flavor, we need sensory references so we can all be sure that we're having the same flavor experience. So with that in mind, we'll be exploring two amazing coffees today from the same farm, Volcan Azul, located at 1,600 meters above sea level in the Alajuela region of Costa Rica. And a young, innovative, and amazing coffee producer, Alejo Castro. I'm going to begin today with the espresso course, and the first of the two coffees. It's a natural anaerobic geisha variety. And while I'm preparing it for you, I want to direct your attention to the 3 vials in front of you. This is an aroma set that I made related to the flavors in the espresso. They're sensory references in order to give you a clearer understanding of what I mean by the flavor notes that I'm using to describe this coffee. So if you could please go ahead and pick up the red vial. It contains pomegranate, which in this espresso you will find as a medium sweetness and notes of pomegranate. So please open it up and smell it. Now, please pick up the yellow vial and smell it. It contains apricots. And in the espresso, you will find this as a low acidity, like stone fruit, and notes of apricots. And please pick up and smell the green vial. It contains honey, which in this espresso you will find as a medium bitterness and notes of chamomile and chocolate in the aftertaste. My recipe for this course today is 20 grams in the basket and 44 grams of espresso out for a brew ratio of 2.2. And the tactile experience of this coffee is medium-low weight, silky texture, and smooth body. There you go. And the small pots are for your used spoons. Using aroma in this way is one of the best ways I've found to talk to my customers about flavor and explain to them the sensory experience that I'm trying to communicate with the flavor notes that I'm using. There you go. Now please enjoy as I go and prepare the next course for you guys. Okay, so for my milk beverage, I want to serve you the second of the two coffees. And now, I'll be using a anaerobic fermented SL28 variety. And if a customer of mine has different flavor references, they might find completely different flavor notes. So ideally, I would always have sensory references. But most of the time, I only have the coffee itself. So for this course, I want you to taste the coffee before I give you the flavor notes, in order for us to have a shared sensory experience to connect the flavor notes with. I'll explain a little bit more what I want you to do when I return with your coffees in a little bit, okay? My recipe for this course is 20 grams in the basket and 40 grams of espresso out for a brew ratio of 2. This intensifies the espresso and harmonizes it really well with my milk. And the milk I'm using is full-fat milk that comes from Røros Meieriet, a small organic dairy in Norway. It has a slightly higher milk fat percentage, and I've also freeze-distilled the milk in order to remove 16% of the water content, which gives this coffee a creamy mouthfeel and increased sweetness, and it balances out the acidity in the SL28. Judges, when I serve you these, I want you to stir 3 times with the spoons, then immediately take a small sip that is not evaluated, just to get to know the flavors in the coffee. Then please wait for me to give you the flavor notes before you proceed with your evaluation. I'm asking you to taste first, because flavor notes are comparisons. And if I gave them to you without context, you would only have your own references to compare with. But once we've all tasted the coffee, we'll have a shared sensory experience. Then, the flavor notes becomes a shared language that we're using to describe this specific coffee at this time here in Milan. There you go. And I chose these 2 coffees, the Geisha and the SL28 from Volcan Azul, for their vibrant and complex flavors. Alejo Castro's quality-focused approach to coffee and controlled anaerobic processing gives these coffees an amazing clarity. This makes the flavors easy to talk about, which was exactly what I was looking for. There you go. Okay, let me give you my flavor notes. To me, in this coffee, the fruity SL28 pairs with the creamy milk to taste like a raspberry cheesecake, natural yogurt, and a rooibos tea. Now please enjoy and evaluate with the second and third sip while I go and tidy up a little bit. Thank you. Judges, for my signature beverage, I want us to go back to that first coffee, the natural anaerobic geisha from Volcan Azul. Flavor notes can be a strong tool to create expectation. And once we acknowledge that they aren't perfect, we can start playing around with them in order to give specialty customers a better experience. Not by claiming that the coffees will taste exactly like the flavor notes, but by using them as a shared language to help us talk about what we're tasting. So for this course, we're going to do the same thing we did for the espresso course, and we're going to be using aroma to highlight flavors in the signature beverage. But now we're going to be using anaerobic fermentation to play around with those notes, just like the coffee itself was changed during processing. And if I could please ask you to take off your masks when you're smelling, you'll get an even stronger experience. Okay, so start. And also, you don't have to write anything down. I'm giving a lot of information for this course, so I've written down the ingredients and the flavor notes, so you don't have to write anything down. Just pay attention to the aroma sets and to me, okay? There you go. Now please pick up and smell the red vial. It contains grapefruit. And the first ingredient for my signature beverage is not grapefruit, it's anaerobic fermented raspberries that I made by submerging raspberries in water, then adding in a lactic bacteria culture and fermenting it at 18 degrees for 24 hours, sorry. I'm using 10 grams in my signature beverage, which will add notes of pink grapefruit. Now please pick up and smell the yellow vial. It contains cranberries. And the second ingredient for my signature beverage is fermented honey that I made by diluting raw honey with water, then adding 10 grams of a 6-year-old sourdough culture. And I fermented it at 18 degrees for 48 hours. Then I pasteurized both of these ingredients to stop any further fermentation. I'm using 15 grams, which will add notes of cranberries and brown sugar. Now please pick up and smell the green vial. It contains a floral green tea. And the third ingredient is an oolong cold infusion that I made with 10 grams of oolong for 100 grams of cold water. I'm using 10 grams, which will add a pleasant herbal bitterness and notes of green tea and jasmine in the finish. I'm also using 10 grams of washed milk that I made by adding citric acid to milk to curdle it, then double filtering it to remove solids. This will add a creamy mouthfeel and will balance out the flavors in the signature beverage. The drink will be served lightly chilled, and I'm also going to blend it to add texture. This tactile experience will be light body, marshmallowy mouthfeel, and creamy texture. Let me repeat those flavor notes for you. Pink grapefruit, followed by cranberry and brown sugar, then green tea and jasmine in the finish. And when I serve these to you, I want you to take a big sip to try and get both the foam and the liquid in order to taste the full range of flavors. I want flavor notes to make sense to new specialty customers. But in order to do that, we have to take the time to explain flavor notes to them and give them references, just like I've done with you today. It's been my pleasure to serve you, and I hope that you've enjoyed these fantastic coffees from Alejo Castro and Volcan Azul. Thank you so much. Time.
How do you feel?
Pretty good. It's fun after having waited for a year and a half, 2 years, to finally just get up on stage and do what we planned.
So I saw you right before the competition.
Yeah.
I saw you right before the competition.
Yeah.
Right before COVID really hit,
Yeah.
winning your national competition. And then you had this long, long gap. What work did you do through those first few months when you were unsure of what would happen and whether you would compete?
Well, since we didn't know when it was going to be, it was always postponed, but just by a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was always starting up my preparation and then stopping again, and then starting and then stopping. So when it was finally announced to be in Milan, I pretty much just started over. But I think all of that, like all the little preparation along the way, helped me.
The little seeds that you had laid and some of
it
the
helped it all
great
come
ideas.
together. Yeah.
And what I really liked about yours was, whilst in many ways it felt really simple, you were actually challenging and questioning one of the really core things around barista competition, which is, you know, how we value flavor and what we assign the points to. So did that feel brave, scary?
I thought it was probably going to be a bit of a risk because obviously we have a relationship with flavor notes. We use them every day. But at the same time, we're also pretty aware that when we say a certain note, we don't mean that the coffee is tasting exactly like that.